Long after the Great War had ended and the songs of victory faded from the halls of Minas Tirith, a quiet sorrow waited for the Evenstar of her people. Few remember what became of Arwen Undómiel after the king was gone. For more than a century, Arwen had lived beside Aragorn, King of Gondor, the man for whom she gave up immortality. She chose a mortal life for love, knowing that one day love would leave her behind. In the Fourth Age, peace finally ruled the lands of Middle-earth. The shadows of Mordor were gone, and the kingdoms of men flourished under the rule of the returned king. For 122 years Aragorn ruled wisely. And through every season of his reign, Arwen stood beside him like a quiet star that never faded. But time is a power even kings cannot command, and the gift of men is a gift that no mortal can escape. As the years passed, Aragorn began to feel the weight of age, not as a weakness, but as a quiet calling that only the ancient kings of Numenor understood. The blood of Numenor flowed within him. And like the kings of old, he knew the time had come to surrender his life willingly. When Aragorn finally spoke of this to Arwen, the world seemed to grow silent. For though she had chosen mortality, her heart had never truly believed this day would come. "You cannot leave me yet," she whispered. But Aragorn looked at her with the same love he had carried for more than 100 years. "My lady, the choice of Lothlórien lies before you still," he told her softly. "Yet there is no comfort for the children of men beyond the circles of the world." Those words struck her heart like winter, for in that moment Arwen understood the full weight of the choice she had made long ago. Once, she had been immortal. Once she could have sailed across the sea to the undying lands, but she had turned away from that path. She had chosen the fate of men for the love of one mortal king, and now the cost of that choice was coming due. Because Aragorn, son of Arathorn, had reached the end of his days. In the House of the Kings, Aragorn laid himself upon the bed prepared for his final rest, and there he waited, calm and unafraid. Arwen knelt beside him. For a long time, neither of them spoke. At last Aragorn looked upon her one final time, and the King of Gondor smiled not with sorrow but with peace. "Behold," he said quietly, "we are not bound forever to the circles of this world." But Arwen did not answer, because the truth had finally settled into her heart. Soon, the king would be gone, and for the first time in centuries, Arwen Undómiel would be truly alone. The final breath of Aragorn came quietly like the fading of a candle at the end of a long night. And with that breath, the greatest king of the Fourth Age passed beyond the circles of the world. The room grew still. Even the wind outside the high walls of Minas Tirith seemed to pause. Arwen remained beside him, her hand still holding his. But the warmth she had known for more than 100 years was gone. For a long time she did not move. The Evenstar of her people sat in silence as if time itself had forgotten her. Outside the chamber, the city of Minas Tirith slowly learned the truth. The king was dead. The bells of the White City rang through every street. Their mournful echoes carried across the stone walls and into the distant fields of Gondor. Men lowered their banners, soldiers bowed their heads, for Aragorn had not only been their king. He had been the symbol of hope after the darkness of war, but in the highest tower of the city, Arwen heard none of it. Her world had grown strangely quiet. For more than a century, every sunrise had been shared. Every evening had ended beside the man she loved. Now the palace halls echoed with emptiness, and every corner reminded her of what had been lost. The throne of Gondor stood untouched. The crown rested where Aragorn had placed it for the last time. Days passed, then weeks. The people of Gondor mourned their king, but slowly life within the city began to move again, yet Arwen felt no return of life within her heart. Because for the first time since the War of the Ring, the world felt unbearably small. The laughter of children echoed in distant courtyards. Music returned to the halls, but none of it could reach her, for the Evenstar was fading. One evening she walked alone into the great Hall of the Kings, the hall where Aragorn had ruled for more than a century. The banners of Gondor hung silently above her, and the throne stood empty like a memory carved in stone. Arwen placed her hand upon the cold arm of the throne, and in that moment she understood something she had tried not to see. Middle-earth was changing. The age of men had begun. The elves were leaving these shores. Their time in this world was ending, and Arwen, daughter of Elrond, was now bound to a fading world. a world where everyone she loved would eventually be gone. At last, she made her decision. She could not remain in the White City any longer. For there was one place left in Middle-earth where her heart still remembered joy, one place where her story with Aragorn had truly begun. And so, the Evenstar left Minas Tirith behind. Walking away from the city where she had once been queen, she did not look back, because some goodbyes are too heavy for the heart to carry. Her path led north, toward the silent woods of Lothlórien. But the forest she remembered would not be the same, for time had taken many things from Middle-earth, and the Evenstar was about to discover just how alone she truly was. The road north was long and silent. No royal guards followed her, no banners of Gondor flew beside her, for the Queen of Gondor now traveled as a widow, not as a ruler but as a woman chasing the last memory of love. Days passed beneath changing skies. Golden fields turned into quiet forests as she journeyed farther from Gondor. At last, the trees of Lothlórien appeared on the horizon, tall, ancient, and glowing faintly in the fading light. Once this forest had been filled with song. Elven voices had echoed beneath the golden branches like wind through silver bells, but as Arwen rode beneath the trees, she heard no music, only the quiet whisper of leaves. The golden wood had changed. Many of its people had sailed west across the sea. Galadriel had departed long ago, and with her, much of the forest's ancient magic had faded. Arwen dismounted near the quiet heart of the forest, for every path here carried a memory. She walked slowly among the trees, touching their silver bark as if greeting old friends. Here she had once walked with Aragorn, long before he had become a king. Here, beneath these very branches, their hearts had been joined. A promise spoken under the stars. Arwen followed a narrow path deeper into the forest, a path she remembered even after centuries. The path climbed gently toward a green hill, a place once filled with laughter and spring flowers. Cerin Amroth, the hill where Aragorn had once pledged his love to her. Arwen stepped onto the hill slowly, and the wind stirred the fallen leaves around her feet. Once this place had been alive with joy, now it felt like the memory of a dream. She remembered Aragorn standing here long ago, young, strong, his eyes full of hope. He had called her his Evenstar, the light that guided him through the darkness of his life, and for him, she had abandoned eternity. She had chosen the fate of men. Arwen looked across the silent forest. The wind moved through the branches like a fading song. In that moment, she understood something terrible. She was the last of her kind in these woods. Her father had sailed west, her people had departed. And Aragorn, the love of her life, it was gone beyond the world. The forest of Lothlórien grew darker as evening fell. Shadows stretched beneath the ancient trees. Arwen remained on Cerin Amroth. As the first stars appeared above Middle-earth, and there, beneath the same stars that once witnessed their love, the Evenstar began to fade, for she knew now where her story would end. In the very place where it had once begun, night settled gently over the golden forest of Lothlórien. The stars above shone cold and distant like memories fading from the world. Arwen remained there on the hill where her love story had once begun, but now the forest that had witnessed her joy would also witness her end. Days turned slowly into weeks, and autumn crept quietly into the golden wood. The bright leaves of the mallorn trees began to fall around her, drifting through the air like fragments of a fading dream. Arwen walked the forest paths each day, paths she had known long before the rise of the Kingdom of Gondor. She walked past empty flats among the branches, the elven dwellings where laughter had once echoed in the wind, but now the forest was quiet, so quiet that even the wind seemed hesitant to speak. Winter soon followed autumn. Cold silver frost touched the fallen leaves, the nights grew longer, and the stars above Middle-earth seemed colder than before. Arwen returned often to Cerin Amroth, the hill that held the most precious memory of her life. There she would sit in silence for hours, watching the wind move through the branches above her. Sometimes she spoke softly to the empty air, as if Aragorn might still hear her voice somewhere beyond the world. For though Aragorn had embraced the gift of men without fear, Arwen had been left behind to face the silence. The choice she made long ago had brought her great love, but it had also brought her sorrow, yet she did not regret it. Not even in the deepest loneliness of her final days, because to have loved Aragorn was worth even the pain of this ending. Winter deepened, snow began to fall lightly across the forest. Arwen returned once more to the center of Cerin Amroth, the same hill where Aragorn had once sworn his love. The world felt very quiet that day, as if Middle-earth itself had come to say farewell. Arwen knelt upon the grass, and the cold wind moved gently through her dark hair. She looked once more toward the western horizon, toward the distant seas she would never cross, for the ships had long since departed, and the undying lands were no longer meant for her. The Evenstar of her people had chosen the fate of men, and now that fate had come. As the final light of evening touched the golden branches, Arwen Undómiel lay down upon the hill of Cerin Amroth. There, in the silent heart of Lothlórien, the Evenstar finally faded from Middle-earth, and so ended the story of Arwen Undómiel, the queen who gave up eternity for love, yet the songs of Middle-earth would never forget her. For some loves are so powerful they echo through the ages, and somewhere beyond the circles of the world, perhaps the king still waits for his Evenstar.